Welcome to the Brilliant Brands Show. I'm Justin Keller, former accidental marketer and creative director turned church branding expert and entrepreneur. Each episode, I'm unpacking the strategies that I've used to help churches all across America make their story, their brand visuals, and their marketing so brilliantly clear that it's impossible to ignore them. And now, it's your turn. I hope you're ready to challenge the way you see things, rebel against complacency, comfort, and conformity, and find your untold brilliance. Now, let the show begin. Welcome to this episode of the Brilliant Brands Show. I'm Justin Keller, your host, and this is a short episode called Extra Consideration. And on these Extra Consideration episodes, I just talk a little bit more about the previous episode, and we keep the conversation going around that. Now, on the previous episode, episode 13, I sat down and had a conversation with Tyler Reagan, who's the president of Catalyst. And we talked about inheriting a brand and leading change. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, I'd recommend going back and listening to that. Tyler was a phenomenal guest, and he had just a ton of great things to say and a lot of challenging thoughts, I think, for us as leaders. And we focused a lot on the component of your brand culture and developing that culture. So listen to that conversation. I know you'll have value added to your life. And Tyler was so gracious to do that with us. But I want to keep the conversation going around leading change. And I want to just focus today on a component of leading change. And it's easy for me to talk about this one because of the position that I had on staff at church. I was a creative director. And what that meant is I had a team that worked with me of designers, web, video. And I had also, though, I worked side by side with my pastor, Pastor Kerry Shook, on high-level items and high-level things. And so I had to lead those that were right alongside of me at the same, leadership level on staff at church. And I had to lead those, downstream on my team that I was responsible for to steward. And then I had to lead up to the leaders that I had, like Pastor Kerry. And what I want to focus on today is that conversation around leading up, because it's a really critical component to leading change. You will not get anything done. You will not accomplish change in your organization, positive change, without being able to successfully lead up. So you can have your idea as communications directors, as creative directors, and you can have buy-in with all of your team. You can have buy-in with the rest of the staff, but it doesn't matter if you can't lead up and create that buy-in upstream. And so one of the things that I was thinking about today, I saw a post about somebody asking, my pastor really wants this to look like this. I think it needs to look like this instead. I saw a post like that, and it reminded me of myself at times. It reminded me of the times that I was so attached to the design or so attached to the moment we were creating or the element that I made it so personal that it was done the way that we dreamt it up. It was done the way that I had envisioned it. I made it so personal that I wouldn't sometimes open myself up to what my pastor is asking for and maybe asking us to change. And what it really boiled down to is I was focused more on winning than I was on building relationship, building trust, and building that equity with my leadership team sometimes. And one of the most critical components to leading change and leading up is we should be better at compromise than we are at winning. And if you look at any great relationship, it's both people maybe compromising their preferences sometimes to be able to keep alignment. It doesn't mean there's agreement, but there's alignment. And as creative leaders inside of our organizations, if we want to win big with our leaders, if we want to see big change happen and make positive change inside of our organizations, it's going to happen by first being better at compromise than we are at winning. I had to tell myself at one point that not every piece is a portfolio piece. And I thought about it like this, that in baseball, you don't make it to the Hall of Fame by batting perfect. You don't get into the All-Star game by batting perfect. It doesn't work that way. You don't hit home runs every single time up to bat. And on staff, as a creative leader on staff, I want to challenge you, take pride in what you do. Yes, Even make it personal. I think personal pride in what you do is important, but your preferences, they cannot win every time. And what I would encourage you to do, which is what I did, is I tried to figure out what are the most critical moments to get to win. And the win wasn't my preference. The win was the organization had to win. And that's a big shift in our mindsets as creatives, as artists, that if we're looking for the big win, it can't be centered around our preference. We should fight for the big win that is centered around the success of our organization. And so a good example would be there was a billboard that we wanted to put out at one point, and I remember my pastor asking for all these different things on it. And I knew this was a big investment that we were making into it, and he saw it as a big investment toward an event we were doing. And so for me, all I had to do was ask him, what's the win for the organization here? And he said that people would know about this and they would know where to go to find out more. And so with that being defined, I was able to say, that means we probably need to take away this. If we take away this and only these items are left, the website and the name, people will know where to go, and that's all they have time to read. How do you feel about that? And I think we ended up compromising. I added another maybe photo that I didn't want to have on there, but I didn't just say, no, you're wrong. That's not going to work. And it was a critical moment that I knew I had to find a way to lead up and push back a little bit. And then there was other times, let's say it was sermon series art, that I really loved to design, and he would say, I want to see this photo with this font and these colors. And that happens sometimes when you work for guys who also are sort of an artist and creative as well. And I had to look at and go back to my team and show them where we were going to land. And sometimes they would say, why? Why are we landing on this? And I would say, this isn't the win. We don't need to have a win here. This isn't critical. This is just going to come and go in 3 to 4 weeks. And so I would just challenge you to make things personal on staff, as creative leaders, but don't take it personal, and be better at compromise than you are at winning, and know when are the critical moments. Because if you are good at compromise and you don't try to win all the little battles, you don't try to get them to change every single time to the way that you want it, to the way that's subjective to your preference, even if it is right. If you are good at letting go of those often, I guarantee you'll have the equity and the trust built up, which is the critical component to leading up, is having that trust and equity with your leadership. You'll have that built up with them when it is critical for the organization's success, that you need to fight for the right answer, the right solution. You'll have built up the equity to get that win. And that's when the win matters at that point. And so that's what I wanted to challenge you with today, is be better at compromise. Remember, every piece isn't a portfolio piece. Don't fight for your preferences. Fight for what's most effective for your organization, and spend more time trying to build trust and equity with your leaders than you are trying to focus on designing things that impress people. At the end of the day, if it's effective and it gets the job done, that's all that matters. And sometimes that means we have to compromise our preferences. And so thanks for listening to this short episode of the Brilliant Brand Show, this extra consideration episode. If you have not subscribed to the show, I would appreciate that. Subscribe to the show on iTunes. And then it means a ton for those of you who have rated the show and you've even taken time to review it. I read the reviews. Your feedback matters, good or bad. I would love it. And so if you don't mind taking a few minutes to do that, and then you can connect with me on social media always. Just the handle is @KellerThinks. And if you want to send me direct feedback to email, just email me, justin@justinkeller.com. And until the next episode, make today great.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. The Brilliant Brand Show is powered by Circle 50 Creative. You can learn more about how we help ministries solve critical ministry moments with the right message, brand visuals, and strategies at circle50.com.